You've talked in that, it's a splendid essay, by the way, congratulations, you've got a lot of detail. You've talked about the outdated ABC Charter, which fails to define the purpose of a public broadcaster, and that, I quote, "This has allowed the ABC to encroach well beyond what was ever expected by a public broadcaster, giving birth to an uncontrollable leftist mediocrity forever dependent on taxpayer expenditure." Now, James, if that is the problem, which it is, what do we do about it?
Well, previously I've talked about shifting their headquarters from the capital cities to the suburbs and the regions, about allowing advertising on the ABC and opening up the recruitment process. But I think as Conservatives, we've got to take a conservative approach here of how we look at public broadcasting, remembering that the ABC essentially started in the 1920s, but officially started in the early 1930s. What is the role of public broadcasting in modern Australia? So I'm calling upon the government to have a commission of inquiry into public broadcasting, and in particular the ABC. One of my disappointments with our government, my government, is that we have communications ministers who are also captured by the ABC. And indeed, we have one whose name we do not mention, who became the ABC's defender-in-chief. And I just think we need to have a serious inquiry that looks into what is the role of public broadcasting in the 21st century when we have such a diverse media market.
Absolutely. And so many platforms on which people can get their information. I mean, you talk about the ABC's reluctance to accept that it's got a serious problem with centre and centre-right Australians, and you say, quote, "The board is a toothless tiger inhabited by members who are at best powerless or at worst captured by the ideology of the staff collective who are the true decision makers." But then, James, and you just alluded to this, let me just tell our viewers, James McGrath hits the nail on the head when he says it is no better at government level. Successive coalition ministers have willfully failed to meaningfully attempt any reform of the ABC. And then he makes the point that James just made. At least one minister saw himself as its defender-in-chief. So on this commission inquiry, taxpayer-funded broadcasting, you want to shift the ABC to a subscriber model, you say, similar to Sky News or Netflix. So your point, and I quote you simply, if you want the ABC, you can pay for it. Just amplify that point.
Certainly. And we've got to look at the role of the ABC across all of Australia. Now, certainly in rural and regional Australia, there is a role for the ABC to be, in my view, a free service, because there is a deficiency in the market, and often you find that the local ABC radio station is the only provider of local news, especially now that so many newspapers have closed down. But in the cities, where the ABC is operating in such a diverse media market, why should the taxpayer, why should your viewers tonight be paying for the ABC, paying for a service that derides them, that sneers at them, and sees it beyond reform? I think we can comfortably move to a subscription model, comfortably move to similar to Netflix, to Stan, to Sky, Fox, or whatever it is. People are used to that. The issue with the ABC, and this is a fascinating point, the ABC in its first 50 years did have a series of reforms, from the Chifley government to Fraser's government, but in the last 40 years there's been no serious reform. The ABC sees itself as perfect and sees itself as beyond reform, and that is so dangerous. The arrogance of the ABC towards government, but more importantly, towards the taxpayer.
Yeah, but see, you've highlighted...
That's so dangerous.
Yeah, James, you've highlighted... Our viewers wouldn't understand this. James McGrath says in this essay, cop this, 4 television channels, 4 national radio channels, 7 digital radio stations, 53 local radio stations operating across 8 capital cities, and 48 regional locations. James McGrath, Senator James McGrath, do we need all this taxpayer funded?
No, we do not need so much taxpayer money, $1.1 billion a year, going towards funding this monolith. And the issue is, when you speak to people on the left or the ABC, they say, well, yes, the ABC should be reformed, give it more money. because it's perfect. It just needs more money. That's the only issue with the ABC. Whereas the rest of us are going, hang on. There are serious issues here structurally with the ABC, but most importantly, Alan, it's how the ABC is no longer representative of Australia. It is no longer
the
you
make that point.
Broadcaster.
Just to interrupt you there, James, you make that point. Your words, it no longer, quote, this is James McGrath, and this is dead right, upholds the values of the Australian people. Those are your words.
Oh, totally. And you just have to look at some of their programs and you look at just how they sneer at what I call middle Australia, the Scott Morrow, the quiet Australians, the battlers. The ABC has been captured, and this isn't a cliche, they actually have been captured by the set who live in the inner cities, that cool, trendy set. And they don't understand that most Australians, we're just pretty normal people, want to get on our lives, we don't want the government interfering with us, we don't like wokeism, we don't like any stuff like that. Just treat people as you'd want to be treated yourself. But the ABC is out of control, and that's why the
right now there are people out there. There are people out there, James, tonight cheering. However, I just say to you: is anyone in your party listening? As you say, there have been Liberal governments for God knows how long, and any number of ministers. This has got worse and worse instead of better and better. Is anyone listening? It's a splendid essay.
Well. Everyone I speak to in the Liberal National Party here in Queensland nods their head furiously. We all agree with this, and that's my disappointment with the ministers. And I'm hoping Paul Fletcher is watching you tonight, or someone in his office is watching you, because to me this is a win-win. It is such an easy win for quiet Australians to have this commission of inquiry, because it's the right thing to do from a policy perspective, and it's also the right thing to do from a political perspective. Paul Fletcher, please have this commission of inquiry. Well done, James. Well done. I've got to get you back down the track to talk about, because you've done a lot of work here on electoral reform as well. That'll be for another night. We'd love to talk to you about that. Thank you for what you've done here. I hope someone's reading. Look, that's all. It's a splendid essay by Senator James McGrath.